Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to the Emergency Reload. I'm Nate. That's you, Cox.
It's me.
It's you.
Emergency reload number 2. We already have a second one. Welcome.
More than 2 guests, though. That's
yeah,
crazy.
more
And
than
none
2
of them
guests.
are saying anything.
Yeah,
I'm not a guest.
Welcome everybody to the whole magazine's.
I'm RJ, and your mom's a hoe.
That's crazy.
Well done.
I'm a partner. I'm not a guest.
Welcome everyone to the whole magazine emergency reload number 2, where we have news about the escalation with the Ukraine and Russia war. I'm joined by, as you heard him, Nathan. Nathan, this is sort of your child, your baby. This is a video series only available on the YouTube. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe and like and get notified when those things get pulled up. We also have, as he introduced himself, RJ. We also have a returning thing. This is probably the first podcast he's been on in about ever. Isaac.
Hello, YouTube manual reviewer.
We also have some other folks that they can introduce themselves if they want to be called by different things.
I'm Josh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I exist.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yep. I'm Joel. I also exist.
Very good. They're learning. They'll get better if they're more on the if they're on the show. I guess.
How do you talk to people?
Hello, I
usually
exist.
with words.
Hello, my name's Joel. I exist. Hence why I'm before you.
Oh.
But don't forget, folks, until January 26th, use Trump 25 for 25% off. It's been extended. I expanded the coupon. It's available for all of the merchandise on this shop. So if you want to grab yourself a mug, wall poster, metal poster, anything that your heart could desire on our store, use Trump 25% off until January 6th. Why do I choose that date? Because I figured it would irritate the liberals, and I think I've been successful so far. Nathan, this is something that we kind of talked about a little bit. We sort of collected some information yesterday about all the information that we currently have at our disposal, and the folks on the show as well have been collecting some more information. But the baseline information that we have is that Ukraine had been bestowed ATACMS and Himars systems. They've had them for a while now, so it's not a new development in Ukraine having them. The new development is that Biden had given the authorization for the use of these weapons against Russia, where Ukraine fired 6 ballistic missiles at a facility in some Russian name, Bryansk, and ATACMS missiles. They had been used in the attack. So Russia states that they shot down 5 of the missiles, with the other being damaged. And the more quote-unquote concerning part of where we're at, why this is escalating the war, is Russia, President Putin, changing the nuclear war doctrine. Effectively saying that this attack and future attacks that are effectively sponsored by a nuclear power, i.e. US, UK, can be considered an attack from NATO. So this is, in my opinion, more saber-rattling. It has the internet pretty much shook to the core. I'm a bit of a skeptic of Russia being serious with their use of nuclear weapons for a multitude of reasons. One, it's something they've been saying since they've gotten the fucking things. And it hasn't happened. 2, they've been saying it this entire war, and they haven't done anything. And it also would just be against their best interest to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine, since they effectively want it. So don't want to kind of dirty up the water, so to speak.
Like the good news here is that whatever level or however many runs on the escalation channel we've gone over, it doesn't seem like we're actually going to get there over this, thank goodness. But it is still irresponsible.
They probably wouldn't use them in Ukraine. They would probably use them in Germany, France, and the United Kingdom, as well as the United States. If they were going to hold true to their, if they're going to hold true to their threats here, whether or not they'll actually do that, who really knows?
I mean, hopefully not. That would be, again, once going up the fucking ladder, and that would be bad.
But it's also like, imagine if we did this every time, like we found out that someone speaking Russian was flying a MiG-21 in Vietnam.
Whoa, dude!
It is the sort of fallout, that is being displayed on the internet, mostly on places like X or Twitter. I know Nathan doesn't like the use of the word X. It sort of triggers him down to his bones.
We don't call it that in my house.
As for me in my house, we will call it Twitter.
But
it's definitely not a porn site.
There is a lot of people freaking out about it. More or less people who aren't really, I guess, aware of geopolitics and sort of what these threats mean.
Like you said, during the day we were doing some collection and some, I guess, just looking
research.
Around.
There's a word for it. It's called research.
I can't remember the damn word.
It's okay.
Sue me.
I'm here for you.
You said the word spooky, haunting.
No, yeah. So when we were looking at the videos, I often said that these were awfully biblical. And we'll see why in a moment. Why don't you cue up the first video? One interesting thing that has come out of this situation is that we have footage of these attacks. So we have footage of a HIMARS. We also have footage of a multitude of missiles. Some of the missiles that Russia had utilized, and it's just awfully.
I love how they're just standing outside filming it. Like it's not going to hit them.
That's outgoing.
So this is from the Russian perspective. Yeah, it's already.
If you're seeing the booster phase,
I should have been able to tell that. Yeah, I should have been able to tell. I'm stupid.
Well, yeah, and then I've got a diagram of it too.
Yeah.
You can see it maneuvering or something up there.
Yeah, that was very interesting sort of exhaust pattern right there.
I had to guess.
Well, there's no wind speeds up there, realistically.
I mean, this is effectively exo-atmospheric.
Don't discount solar wind.
This is one where I was saying it was awfully biblical.
Yeah. Freaking wild.
This thing streaking across the sky.
Sufficiently advanced technology is magic.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Speaking of magic, can you translate the Slav runes down there?
Slav runes.
That's a missile, and then that's a location. It says missile, location, date.
Oh, okay.
I was saying how this was biblical because of like this sort of. It looks like an angel. Yeah, it looks like a stylized angel in some sort of cursed RPG.
Google Translate says Gorod Satpayev. And it says rocket for the first word.
Yeah.
Very
missile.
Interesting.
I think they're the same word in Russian, basically.
Satpayev is in Kazakhstan.
Oh.
And there was another good video. We have another one.
There's another one from Russia.
Yeah, look at that.
It's just amazing. You can watch the same event.
Yeah, from multiple different locations, different angles.
It's amazing. It's amazing to think about the scale of how many people got to see this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like a SpaceX launch out of Vandenberg.
Yeah, exactly.
There's all kinds of videos of everyone.
Oh, look at that.
And those are
sort of
might have been a hot stage or something.
Yeah, stage separation probably. Interesting. Cue up that
shockwave pattern.
Cue up that these sort of impacts.
Before I do that, I'll just show you guys, or the audience rather. That's kind of what you're looking at.
I know where you got this from. You got it from 4chan.
Yep. If you guys were wondering, it's like, why is it so bright?
Was that a Russian missile?
What are clouds?
Yeah, that was Russian missile. Yeah.
Okay.
No, the sort of retaliatory
IRBMs.
The retaliatory strike against Ukraine after the attacks.
And then here we go with let's see, no,
strike
that's the
footage.
GIF. Here we go.
That was like the thumbnail of the GIF.
This is supposedly.
So what exactly is hitting? That's like the MIRV.
My guess, and I don't know for sure. MIRVs. It feels like it's unloaded MIRVs. That's my guess.
Yeah, that's multiple independent reentry vehicles. If you look at the way that it's, you can see multiple splash zones there. I would even wager to say that they're filled with like concrete.
I was going to say that as a joke. They're just put rocks in the damn thing.
So an IRBM is still going to be re-entering with enough kinetic energy. There's even like the meme of like third world countries calling their ballistic missiles hypersonic missiles now because of the
Lamau.
Because of the propaganda that you can generate if you have hypersonic missiles.
This is a very cool view.
That is a cluster of re-entry vehicles that hypothetically could have been nukes.
Fucking scary, dude. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Well,
please no.
Every single time you've seen a TBM, because they've been slinging TBMs at Ukraine constantly throughout the war.
If we see a nuclear explosion in 2025, I think we're fucked.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if they nuke Ukraine, we're probably going to be fine.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit far away.
Well, I hope it doesn't generate a nuclear response from America. That's the last thing.
Show the images.
They were trying to figure out what an appropriate response would be to Russia nuking Ukraine, and they had.
The thing is, we could walk over them.
They had thrown the idea of nuking Belarus for some reason. It's just like, well, we don't really want to nuke Russia directly because it's not like that kind of nuclear response. Like that's not necessary. So who do we nuke? Well, we can nuke Belarus. That would get our point across.
Yeah, they're only a warm water port. They don't care about that.
What's really cool?
Honestly, I think we could just
think
walk
Belarus
over
counts.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Leningrad. My bad. That's hilarious, actually. Jesus Christ.
We could just walk over them and split up the territory among every single European country.
I mean, sure, if we get into a nuclear war with them. So that's the thing. If they're, as they've just demonstrated, really, they've just demonstrated that they have the capability of launching a ballistic missile that could have been like each of those independent reentry vehicles, and that was like 15 you saw in that footage.
I wonder how many people
could have been a nuclear bomb.
Because it looked like it hit a pretty populated area.
Well, Nathan's going to pull up...
Who knows what they were targeting?
Nathan's going to pull up what I believe to be a HIMARS.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what this is. Walker might have a better idea.
Which one?
There it is. There it is.
Deep lore. It's happening.
Well, it's gone.
Screenshot
Magic.
that. He had his porn folder open.
Are we looking at something, Nathan?
Not yet. Here we go.
He's looking for it.
So this, I don't think is the Russian attack. I don't know if it's the ATACMS strike, though.
Either. Well, look at the angle of attack, though.
Yeah, it just, I'm not sure what that is.
Angle of attack, it's full of obviously explosives.
I kept seeing this posted all night.
Well, that was pretty much
it set off car alarms from all the way over there. Holy shit.
That looks like it's striking POL. So
POL?
Yeah. Petroleum.
Oh.
Oil, lubricants. Just because the amount of flame there. Yeah. So that's no high explosive is going to do that. Right.
The angle is very much, it looks like a HIMARS or something.
Well, you say that. I guess it could be a unitary warhead. This could be any number of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the really context of the previous authorization that was given by Biden, so
is this inside Russia?
That was my understanding, but
it's difficult to say.
Lots of people were arguing about this video.
It could be ATACMS.
Sure. That's what I wanted to know.
ATACMS is not a ballistic missile. It maneuvers. So you can't really tell a lot by the angle that the missile comes in.
This was these were pretty interesting videos to dig up though after the right, it could just be HIMARS or ATACMS because in the context of the recent authorization from Biden.
The HIMARS launcher would fire the ATACMS missile.
We do have the sort of image of why Ukraine being able to use these ATACMS is such a big deal. The range given to Ukraine effectively to engage Russia is greatly increased. The range of ATACMS being about 300 kilometers and the HIMARS only 77 kilometers. They're now able to effectively engage multiple air bases that were previously not able to be reached. You can see in this map here that's on screen, you'll be able to see the current Russian territory, Crimea, we have the Donetsk region, basically. What seems to be a quick jaunt away from Kharkiv, which is a current objective, if I'm not mistaken. This is where our sort of Russian war analysts just come in, Nathan and Isaac.
I think we're on, day 1003 now, by the way.
Yeah, yep. It's been a hot minute.
By the way, Lockheed Martin now produces the ATACMS missile. It was previously owned by someone else who went defunct in 2001.
I understand the smaller, the Joel and the Josh might have something to say.
I don't have much to say about like territory or missiles wise, but like I did find an interesting article from CNN, which is not the greatest source, but this is after Ukraine used their missiles and after Russia used their missiles in response. Zelensky calls Russia's use of new missile a severe escalation of war. I don't know if you see the irony here. But...
Yeah, it's pretty rich. So to comment on Zelensky, a lot of, as we all know, Democrats have been super sucking the dick of Zelensky for a long time. And I believe, I don't know if there's something I can find that sort of corroborates this story. Apparently Zelensky bought 2 yachts in the time of the United States giving him weapons or, whether it be equipment or monetary funds to support their efforts in Ukraine. It's just, you choose the lesser of 2 evils, I suppose, whereas Ukraine is, equally as corrupt as Russia, but they do stand as a buffer between Russia and NATO. So there is obviously very strong geopolitical reasons to support Ukraine, but the fact that the Democrats are basically pushing effectively for war instead of proposing off-ramps. I'll also put on screen right now these sort of information about Biden sending somebody to sort of throw a wrench into peace talks between Zelensky and Putin. This was about, I think, maybe a year after the conflict started, and they were actually trying to defuse the situation, and the Biden administration fucked that. Because I think
in the first year of the war, it was definitely important for NATO to show a response.
Yeah.
As the war has dragged on, we could keep funding Ukraine indefinitely, but they will run out of men at some point. But it also, I think we've accomplished our strategic objective of making sure that Russia has to very much pay with blood for the land that they want. If we hadn't responded, it would be kind of like giving the Sudetenland or the Rhineland back to Germany. There's only
That's a good analogy. I like that.
There's only so much that we can do without getting involved.
Yeah.
But we also didn't want to just like let Russia know, like, oh, there's no consequences.
Right. And that's another skiing. Nathan remembers our discussion with Tom Burbage, episode 52, by the way, where we talked about Russia and Ukraine, and we talked about Hamas and Israel. And he mentioned, Bruce mentioned this very candidly. It was either Tom or Bruce. They mentioned that it's not only the optics of Hamas doing whatever they want, or Hezbollah doing whatever they want to United States Navy ships. It is, you zoom out from that, and people are watching, and people are paying attention. And so people are seeing, effectively, terrorist organizations launching missiles at ships with zero
anti-ship ballistic missiles.
And there are zero consequences. They're just letting it happen and getting shot down by Sea-Wiz. And there's no F-35s going to deliver freedom, like an Amazon from hell. And it's that point that he made was so perfect, because you have to zoom out. Everyone, the left, people who get into these sort of topics to discuss kind of get really focused on the optics of Ukraine and Russia rather than zooming out. It's like, well, you look outside of the Hamas and Israel conflict, other Middle Eastern countries are also looking at this and seeing that the United States isn't just bombing the absolute shit out of these terrorists, and they get emboldened and they start acting out more. So I think NATO in the first year going very strong support for Ukraine, showing that they may not be part of NATO, but they're still going to get some support because, we hate you, Russia, is a very good message. But at this point, we're beyond 3 years into the conflict now. It's sort of, there needs to be some sort of off-ramp. I'm sure if you talk to either of them, both of them would like an off-ramp, because they cannot sustain this. This isn't sustainable.
Well, Ukraine does probably want its territory back.
Which,
so who knows? Who knows honestly what the political will of those populations are. We're not culturally
he does
literate in the Ukrainian or Russian culture, so there's not really a good way for us to tell through the propaganda, because anything that they put out in English is
meant for us.
It's meant to sway your opinion somehow.
If any foreigner has a protest sign in English, it's for you.
Zelensky has met with Trump, and what's interesting is I'm sure Zelensky knows that it's very likely that his piggy bank has a time limit now. So regardless of whether or not he wants to keep the territory, it's going to be
Germany, UK, France. They all have the capability. They don't do it, but they have the capability of increasing military spending. And while the Ukraine war has been going on, they have actually increased spending. So they can probably also just continue sending weapons to Ukraine. I don't think that if we pulled out our support that the war would be over overnight. I do think that what is essentially going to happen is Trump is going to try to bully both sides into coming to the peace table. Because right now I don't really think that either of them are really into the idea of negotiating.
Neither have any incentives to give up at this point.
Russia
and that's
one doesn't have to.
So Russia knows that for as long as the political will of the population is so easily controlled, because they are a very heavily propagandized population, just like the United States is, but even more so in Russia, that they can probably continue this war until Ukraine runs out of people. They can do this war of attrition. It doesn't necessarily matter how favorable their exchange rates are as far as casualties. They can keep this going on for another few years.
And
every year, every single day, someone's turning 18.
And now Russia has, I believe Chinese or North Korean mercenaries.
Well, I wouldn't call them mercenaries.
Some 10,000, I believe the number was.
There were Chinese mercs, but there are some North Korean regulars in
This
Kursk.
is like calling the Chinese regular army that invaded Korea while we were there volunteers. It's sure you can call them mercenaries. That is
another nation hiring another nation for
that is the
people.
People's Liberation Army. Whatever they call them, that is a People's Liberation Army unit there. And then with North Korea, they're not even pretending it's not state sponsored. Those are active duty North Korean troops who have been given on loan to Russia and then subsequently addicted to porn.
It's been those are pretty funny stories coming up.
They get unfettered internet access. They're just like
all addicted to porn, and then they're going to defect.
Is truly unbelievable.
And then
Let's see what
they're going
makes
to defect.
The decadent West so decadent.
And then they're going to defect, and they're like, "No, I can't give it up. I can't go back. I have to stay."
There's going to be a whole bunch of war veterans coming home that are like more heroic than their senior officers. And someday they're going to be senior officers. And it's like, you know what we need to do? We need to make our own communist porn industry.
They're going to be reports of like dozens of Starlink terminals going missing.
Best case scenario. I don't know if anyone listening or anyone in the chat is a Trekkie. At one point, they like find a Borg drone, and they teach him how to be independent. And he likes it, so that when they send him back to the Borg, he just spreads the idea of not being in the Borg anymore, which is like a cancer to their ideology.
So it's a meme weapon. They made a meme weapon.
Well, yeah. So it's the idea that these North Koreans are getting a taste of the outside world. They could go back and be like, well, why can't we afford vodka?
Anybody else have anything?
More to the point from earlier about how, the propaganda's one for us, and two, they want war. They want more war. They're trying to push more war, right? Further down in that article that I mentioned earlier, it says that Zelensky said, a lack of tough reactions to Russia's actions sends a message that such behavior is acceptable. He said, Russia must be forced into real peace, which can only be achieved through strength. So you can see...
He is right.
Yeah.
He might be right, but he's definitely trying to milk it.
No. He's been saying. Of course he is, because he knows that if he didn't have any of the support of these first world countries, the conflict would have been over a year or two ago. So he's well aware that he is only able to be successful because of the support he has from NATO, effectively.
And that's also by design. Since 2014, we've been training and equipping the Ukrainian army, knowing that a follow-up invasion was going to take place.
Yeah. So
it's
these are all sort of...
This gets into the realpolitik of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, regardless of what Ukraine is as far as a money laundering operation or a country that had been aligned with Russia previously.
This also just goes into more of like the United States hegemony as well. This is a prime example of that, which people want to deny as being that being a thing. It is a thing.
Well, the United States hegemony is a factor. Really what this is a nuclear arms race type thing going on as a second Cold War is a bad thing. So Putin's goals are essentially, or have been, and Peter Zeihan is a geopolitical analyst who's talked about this for decades, whether or not he's correct about it, that eventually Russia is going to realize the demographic problem that they have, and then they're going to try to subjugate former Russian Empire territory and former Soviet Union blocks. So any republic that was part of the Soviet Union is at, or would have been at threat of getting invaded. Now they understand the fact that, well, maybe the Westerners are getting tired of supporting Ukraine, but they're not tired of supporting Georgia or Kazakhstan or Mongolia. So, if they have to every step of the way fight this type of war, it's not feasible to them. And a lot of the pro-Russian shills and supporters on the internet will talk about the fact that Russia has very good geopolitical reasons to have invaded Ukraine, and they do. It makes a lot of sense for them to have invaded Ukraine. Does not mean that we should have let them. Just because they have valid grievances against the West.
Just because your enemy has a good reason to invade doesn't mean you can be okay with it.
Yeah, like sure, it
doesn't
makes
mean
sense
you should.
that they invaded,
It's like, oh
but
no,
it doesn't
no,
mean we
no,
should let them.
no, yeah, valid, yeah, no valid reason, yeah. Ukraine's full of Nazis and valid. Go ahead.
It was definitely, I think, a test of NATO as a international partnership.
Yeah.
To see if they would actually respond, because if NATO didn't respond well in Ukraine, they're probably not really going to respond well to let's say a lesser NATO state. I don't want to say Poland, because Poland is actually one of the strongest armies in Europe at this point. But
you're thinking of France.
Let's say Estonia or Finland gets invaded. What are we going to do about that?
Well, I don't think they're going to attack the Finns.
Yeah, here's the thing. I do disagree in that Article 5 is supposed to be absolute. If it isn't, then it isn't. But if it is, it is.
It's supposed to be, and it probably was in 1975.
I would say it probably still is today. Now, I'm saying it's not as strong, but
well, there's always that. It's the game of military brinkmanship, right? Mm-hmm. Is the UK willing to go through the whole mutually assured destruction thing for Estonia?
Mm-hmm.
If Russia comes out tomorrow and says, I'm only invading Estonia, everyone else doesn't have to worry. I'm only invading Estonia.
Have no fear, mortals.
Is the United Kingdom going to go to war with Russia over Estonia? And that, I think, was kind of the, Putin's
it was a probe.
His foot into the water to see what is is this a real alliance, right? Because you can write on a piece of paper that everyone has to nuke Russia if they get attacked.
Yeah, I get you. But again,
what are they going to do?
Ukraine is a non-NATO state.
I think that was
true.
I think I think that's where it goes into the smart response.
If they would argue, you could argue, and it's a strong argument.
That's why it's a test.
If we are willing to do this for Ukraine, we would absolutely be able to do this for allied partners.
And I think that's
a strong argument, but I don't think it's correct, because
what you're not getting is that
we could be willing to do this over Ukraine.
Article 5. You could test Article 5 by invading the fucking United Kingdom, right? Mm-hmm. But that's too good of a test. That's there's too much at risk there. But if you invade a country that's starting to lean towards the West, and then you see what the NATO response is, then maybe you might be able to peel away people from NATO if they, one, think NATO is not a good, strong alliance, or two, just invade Estonia and like, don't worry, guys. And then France has left NATO before.
Well, no, they left the Joint Command. Wasn't that it? That's all they left.
They left NATO, essentially.
But they came back, right?
So
they just didn't come back under the Joint Command.
I think that the assessment of Russia attacking Ukraine as a probe, basically teetering on the line of actually invoking NATO.
That's only one facet of the reason
rules,
why. Like I said, they have plenty of good reasons to invade Ukraine.
But this was also happens substantially a very good measure to see how NATO would respond to such a thing.
Well, again, I'm not super sold on that. I mean, it's the best argument I've heard.
I understand what you're saying, Nathan. It's not the sole reason.
Ukraine is not something should not go to nuclear conflict over. No matter how much we flirt over it.
That's kind of the point, is that we haven't.
Yeah, we haven't. It's pretty much always been Russia. Russia's been throwing that around.
But there aren't any NATO regulars in the field either, and we're not likely going to see that either. So
that's true. I'm not saying that this is an attack on NATO. What I'm saying is this was a good way for Russia to gauge what a NATO response would be to further aggression in Europe, and possibly whether or not it's a serious alliance with a serious capability of organizing and working together. And so they found out, holy shit, they are working together. They don't like us very much, and they are somewhat bloodthirsty and crazed about it. So that's what they found out by attacking Ukraine. If they'd found out that they're not really serious about their national defense, and some of them are willing to work with us pretty well, although Germany, had still tried to buy gas from them until someone, either us or Ukraine or someone, blew up the pipeline. If they had decided that they didn't think that NATO was a serious alliance, that could have ended very badly for us. Like, you could have a Red Dawn, not necessarily Cuba invading fucking somehow, but
I know what you mean.
You could have a Red Dawn, pre the movie situation that they build up to, where NATO dissolves because of the lack of resolve and the lack of willingness to get engaged in mutually assured destruction. Because that means are you willing to have Buckingham Palace nuked for Estonia?
First,
right?
Yes.
Well, you should ask the Queen about that.
Only joking.
The King.
Only joking.
The Queen's still in command. Trust the Queen.
Oh, is that right?
Trust the Queen. Anything else before we digress?
It starts with Q.
Oh shit! He broke the code.
Anything else before we digress?
Loyalist in control.
The new experimental hypersonic missile has been named the Orishnik. Or the new Russian hypersonic missile has been named the Orishnik.
I wanted to talk about the fact that in Yemen, so for years on the internet, I've seen shit about like carriers are going to be obsolete because of anti-ship ballistic missiles. Mm-hmm. And then it turned out that anti-ship ballistic missiles just get shot down all the time.
Yeah.
And also the fact that a terror organization, essentially, because Yemen is only like kind of a state actor. The Houthi rebels do technically control the major population centers, but it's like the Taliban right now. It's like in between a terror organization and a state actor. They have access to the highest tech anti-shipping weapons ever created by mankind. And they're using them against the United States.
And just getting shot down.
And I had talked about this before. I know we've had discussions about this where I was saying that nothing's going to come of Prosperity Guardian unless we're willing to bomb Iran.
Yeah, but that would make it so much worse.
It would, but it would also bring things to a conclusion.
It's going to be interesting to see how the Middle Eastern conflict changes.
It's the same issue as in Vietnam and Korea, right? If you're not allowed to cross, I forget what river it is. I want to say it's not the Yangtze River, but the river that's on the border between Korea and China. If you're not allowed to cross that border, no munitions, no aircraft, nothing. You can't attack the troops as they're forming for attacks. You can't attack logistics hubs. You can't attack airfields in China. So now you have to fight a war on Chinese terms in, the freezing conditions in Korea. That doesn't go well, right? So that's why the MacArthur plan, while it would have made things worse, would have brought things to a strategic conclusion. Otherwise, what you end up doing is you end up finding out why the Romans fought the way they did. Bellum Romanum, war as the Romans fought it. You only fight total war. Why do you only fight total war? Because it solves problems. If you go to war in Afghanistan and you're not allowed to genocide people, you have to deal with the fact that you're going to be there for a long time. I'm not saying we should have genocided the population in Afghanistan before anyone starts throwing accusations around. What I am saying is that because we weren't willing to do it, it meant that we had to occupy the country for 20 years. If we're not willing to stop the Houthis from getting the weapons at the source, they will always have the weapons. If they always are getting the weapons from Iran, they will always have the option of using them. So unless Operation Prosperity Guardian decides to somehow start interdicting Iranian weapons shipments, which would cause a war with Iran, nothing's going to happen. They're always going to have weapons coming from Iran.
Wasn't there a story of some Navy SEALs attacking Iranian shipment? I think there was at least 1 or 2 Navy SEAls that got lost during that mission.
I don't know if it was an Iranian weapons shipment, but I had heard about them boarding a vessel that had been taken over by the Houthis because they're kind of doing state-sanctioned piracy.
Air assault piracy.
Well, yeah, so the Houthis are like literally coming in on helicopters and landing on ships and taking them over and then diverting them to Yemen. Or they had been. And who knows if it's, enemy weapons fire, they fell off a ladder. Who knows what happened to those SEALs? But that is kind of the thing you expect in these operations. It's why the SEALs, have to be elite. It's not a very enviable job. Hey, guess what? It's pitch black outside. Jump out of this helicopter. Hope
Best
you
of
don't
luck.
miss the guardrail. Yeah.
Have fun. All right. Anything else, gentlemen?
Not for me.
All right. I think that's going to conclude the emergency reload number 2. Thank you all. And don't forget, Trump 25, 25% off of everything on the store, available till January 6th. Thank you, and as always, have a good one.